Excited. Welcome everyone to the Transformational Storyteller Show. And the Transformational Storyteller shows we showcase impact-centered transformational storytellers sharing the power of story to create, ignite, and facilitate transformation in the world. And today, I have the honor and privilege to introduce you to one of my dear friends. Her name, as you heard, is Julie Radlauer. And Dr. Julie Radlauer is a leading expert in the social influence of mental health. This is an exciting topic that we're going to be talking about today. She's the best-selling author of the book Connect, 100 ways to create happiness in your life. Who doesn't want that, right? She's an international keynote speaker. She's been featured on TEDx at the United Nations, and she speaks about creating equitable mental health practices for everyone. So Julie is also the chapter author of From a Heavy Heart to a Connected Soul. Hi, Julie.
Hi. Hi. Thank you so much for having me here. It's so nice to just spend some time with you.
Oh, it's so nice to have you. And I'm just so grateful that you're here and that you are taking the time to share with our audience today. I'm sure that they're in for a treat because every time you speak, it's like wisdom, 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 wisdom. So
Thanks.
first, oh, it's true.
Right back at you.
Yeah, so first I'm going to ask you to share your transformational story with our audience today.
Okay. Well, thank you so much again. Thank you for having me. And I just love spending time with you, even if it's virtual. So the story that I shared is really a little bit about stigma, because I think, people if you wake up in the morning and you have a headache, you're not afraid to say to somebody, "Oh, I have a headache today. I'm going to go take some aspirins." But if you wake up in the morning and you're feeling sad, you wouldn't necessarily share that with somebody. And I find that really frustrating because actually the research demonstrates that if you're feeling sad and you take aspirin, it will make you feel better. So the mental pains that we experience are very similar to the physical pains. They're all experienced within our brains. And so I want to normalize that for people and help people recognize that, regardless of how you feel, there are things that you can do that can make yourself feel better. And in a way that people feel comfortable talking about it. So that's really kind of like what my story is about is let's normalize how we talk about the way that we're feeling, and recognize that we have the ability through our everyday actions to change the way that we're feeling.
Yeah, I love that. And would you be willing to share your story from the book?
Yeah, so my story is about my own personal experience with this, that I was waking up with just a really heavy heart. And, there were lots of reasons for it, going through transformations. A lot of it was related to 2020, related to research that I was doing around structural racism. I had been working in the mental health field for a really long time and felt like we were always providing really good, solid supports for people who were struggling with their mental health conditions. And then I conducted a couple of research studies, and spoke with families from diverse backgrounds and asked them, are the services working for you? And many Black and Brown families said, no, they're really not. And so when you work in nonprofit and you're trying to support low socioeconomic communities, you're working with a lot of Black and Brown families. And so for me, that was just this moment where I was like, wait a second, we've been doing this for so long and it's not working. And so I went to talk to families and said, well, what do you want? Like, what's not working and what would work for you? And many families said they wanted their needs met in ways that spoke to their culture. And they wanted their needs met through more natural supports, like their family, their faith, their friends, their community, and not going to speak to some trained professional who probably doesn't look like them, and hasn't had their same lived experience. And so I took that information and thought, well, how do I use that information, one, to help everybody get the support that they need, and two, to help the helping professionals that are trying to work with people learn how to do it in a way that's going to be more equitable, more effective, support people in the way that they want. And so that's really been a lot of the work that I've done, is to take that information, create the book that gives resources to everyday people as well as helping professionals. But that my chapter is really about the kind of that transformation for me, about this recognition that, what we thought we were doing that was helpful really wasn't, and how that landed on me, and how that really was a difficult time for me. To recognize, like, all of my life's work really wasn't supporting people the way that I thought it was, and so I woke up with a heavy heart for a while there, kind of grappling with that. And then being able to share my story and share my research and help people recognize, first of all, the people that we thought were helping, help them recognize, like, you are being seen and heard. And then the people that um, are trying to be helpers, to help them realize, like, how to do this differently in the way that people want to be helped.
Oh, that is just so powerful. And, as an immigrant and a woman of color, and having experienced a lot of adversity in this country, and, having good, I would say, well-intentioned people
Exactly.
try to help. I absolutely relate to that. And I'm just so grateful that you could feel that empathy, and that you could take action to support our communities. Thank you for doing that. It takes not only the solidarity of our community, but also allies like you to come in and jump in and do the work. So I really appreciate that. And I appreciate you sharing your story and being vulnerable, because that's really what we need. And why do you think telling our stories is important?
Just for a second, sorry.
Oh, okay. So why do you think? I think it's because we are going through a snowstorm here in Texas, and we're not.
Oh, really? It's snowing? Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
it's snowing a lot. My children are outside. I mean, they're not outside, they're looking outside. And they're so excited. But yeah, so I was asking why you think it's important to share our stories.
I mean, I love the work that you do, and I love how you make it so easy and accessible for people to share their stories. From my own personal experience, I'll say being able to talk about it, it was a sense of healing for me, for sure. And so I love that that's your platform, is, healing through storytelling. It's so powerful. I also think that I have a big audience. I can talk to a lot of people, working in the behavioral health field for a long time. And so for me to be able to share my story about how, I was personally impacted by the research that I was doing and by what our systems have been doing for years and years and years, I think it allows other people, one, to connect with me because I focus on social connections, but also to be able to feel vulnerable enough to share their stories and to open up. Like, I will, get up in front of a group of 100 people and talk to them about something that's very vulnerable to me, and then say, now turn to your partner and share something that's really vulnerable. And people will come up afterwards and say, like, I've never told anybody that.
Yeah.
I've never had permission to tell anybody what I said out loud to a complete stranger. And so I appreciate that you help people share their stories. And so because I think that is how we heal.
Oh, thank you so much for that. And I definitely agree that it's very healing. And, I help impact centered leaders, because one of the things I've heard John Maxwell say this, and I truly believe it, is that a leader doesn't just show the way, they go the way. And so when you're asking people to share this powerful, very painful sometimes, and almost secret, like you said, experiences, it's important for leaders to be able to show them that it's okay, and to give them permission. And they do that by doing it themselves first. And so really appreciate what you said there. it is my honor, and I just love working with you. So I really was excited to help facilitate this chapter for you. But one thing that you've been talking about is how people need to connect. And so, why do you think it's important? Tell us a little bit about it, the work that you do with Connect and all of the platforms that you have about it, and what do you love most about it?
Well, what I really love the most is to get up in front of a group of helping professionals and blow their minds. Like that's my favorite thing to do, is to share with them the data. Because I do a lot of, I like to share data and from the research perspective. And I think like data doesn't lie. And so people can think that they're doing, like you mentioned, well-intentioned, we're trying to do the best that we can kind of a thing. But then when you show the data about the inequities and the way that our structural systems are designed, and then they continue to perpetuate inequities, and people see that. So that part I really appreciate, is being able to have a large audience recognize that maybe what they were doing needs to shift a little bit. But then more importantly than helping people make the shift is giving them all of the tools. And that's what I love about the Connect system. It's like literally a workbook of 100 different activities that anybody that I'm speaking to can just do any one of those activities with their family, their friends, their clients, their community, and it will help them either build their social connections or their social support, or build their social capital, or manage their social media, all of the things social. My favorite, of course, is social inclusion, is to make sure that we're trying to have as diverse communities as possible, because that's how we learn and grow and expand our horizons. And so yeah, I feel like, it's not rocket science. And these days, everybody's talking about social connections. It's a very popular topic right now because it is one of the reasons that we're experiencing a global mental health crisis. And there's something we can do about it. And so it's not like somebody who's suffering with schizophrenia, where they're really struggling and they need to be on medication and therapy, strong therapeutic intervention and whatnot. This is something that, 80% of the population of people who feel a little bit sad or are struggling with their mental health, they can do things every day that will impact their level of happiness. I want people to know that and to feel their power.
I love that. And would you be willing to share at least one thing that from those 100 ways that you share in the book, that any one of us can do right now? We have some people watching live, and some people will be watching the recording. And I think it would be really powerful to have something as homework that we could do.
Just a quick little homework. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Um, I think if one thing I love to do is when I'm in a group of people is I have them turn to the person next to them and I'll say, I'm going to set my timer for 1 minute for 60 seconds. And I just want you to stare in the eyes of the person next to you for 60 seconds. And many people are like, oh no, I cannot do that. But I'll say, okay, so then figure out how many seconds you can do it for, right? And try to, right? Because when you can look into somebody's eyes, you're building an instant connection. So not that you're going to walk up to somebody and say, let me just stare in your eyes for 60 seconds, but a big takeaway is every time you're having a conversation with somebody, take a moment to look into their eyes.
Mm,
That builds connection just by virtue of doing that.
yeah.
If you're not going to be around people today, one way that you can connect is to pick up your phone and to be very intentional and think about who's somebody that really makes me smile, but I haven't connected with them in a minute. And to intentionally reach out to that person and just say, hey, I'm thinking about you and wanted to connect. When can we catch up?
Mm.
And so if I'll do that, an activity like that in a large group of people will, I'll say like, think about a mentor or somebody that's special to you that you haven't connected with in a while. And then people will come up to me afterwards and say like, I reached out to my best friend from summer camp and we haven't spoken in 15 years and we're going to go out for lunch. And it's like, that's all it took was me just throwing that idea out there, So it doesn't have to be rocket science. These are simple things everyday things that we could do.
Yes. I love it. And I know exactly who I want to reach out to. And I just saw a comment in the chat from my brother. I think he's reaching out to me and saying, I love you, beautiful.
Oh.
That's what he said. I love you, beautiful brother.
Uh,
That is so cool. I love how easy it is to connect with others. I mean, eye contact, sending a little text, sending a little message. I think that that's really powerful. And I wanted to ask you real quickly because sometimes we communicate by sending memes or sending, a reel that we thought was funny or something like that. Is that enough, or do we need to up the ante a little bit?
well, that's a great start. It's a great start. It's a touch, it's a touch point. And so is it nice to get a little touch? Absolutely. But we need 8 hugs a day.
A
Yes, in our body, we need to have 8 hugs per day, right? So a touch, that's good. It's not a bad thing. It's always nice to get a little poke, but it's not going to be the same thing as the hugs that we need. And
yes.
so it's the tip of the iceberg, but is it bad? No, it's great.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for saying that and for validating many people who, do that in the world. And I think always striving for a little more is important. And could you tell me real quickly, like when I look into somebody's eyes, when I hug 8 times, someone else, I'll hug myself too. Why not? When I hug myself once and other people 8 times, what does it do? Why is it important? What is it that we get from that? Because I know that everyone, I mean, you said 80% is struggling with our mental wellness or our mental health. And so, what are the benefits? What is the flip side of that?
Oh, well, absolutely. I mean, there's so much research around the neuroscience behind what physical touch does to somebody, what connection and communication does in your brain. It releases oxytocin, which, is the love, hormone there. And so we want that in our bodies because it gives us energy. It keeps us healthy. And so when we don't do that, when we don't spend time with people and connect with people, our levels are very low.
Mhm.
And so the same way that they've done research around, like if you literally in brain scans, if you're feeling sad and you take, aspirin or Tylenol, what does it do to the pain sensors? The same is true for connectivity. And so there's, significant research around like, yes, it's nice to have what we call like um, loose ties or weak ties.
Mhm.
Those are those little touch points, but it's the strong ties, the depth that really gives us that release of oxytocin, which is what we want.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much. I know I want to hear everything from you and we only have a little time today, but I want to encourage everyone to follow you and to connect with you. Uh, Everybody can
Thank
see
you.
right there collectively. That is how you connect. Tell us your website and where everybody can connect with you. And of course, that's gonna be in the show notes. So everyone can just do a little click to find you. But where do you encourage people to get in touch with you?
I'm mostly on LinkedIn and Instagram. Those are like my two main. And my name for LinkedIn, Dr. Julie Radlauer. And then for Instagram, it's collectively_us, US, collectively us. And of course, my website, which is recently being updated. We're launching it next week, finally.
Hey,
Yes,
happy.
ready for the update. And so that's collectivelyus.org is the website.
Yeah,
And then, here with you.
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything that you want to add to say goodbye to our audience?
What I would like to say is that, you know, here we are in January and we're setting our goals for the year, and being very hopefully intentional about what are the things that we're going to allow to be on our plate, that we're going to focus our energies on. And I just encourage everybody to set one goal for connection. Make, you know, whether it's I want to, you know, reconnect with family or reconnect with friends, or maybe once a month I'll make a commitment to do something with a certain group of people that bring me joy, or reconnect with community and I want to get reinvested and support my community, create a third space for myself, whatever that looks like, but to incorporate a connection goal.
I love that so much. That is so powerful. I am just really grateful for all the wisdom that you shared today and all
Thank
of the
you.
information. Thank you for sharing your story. And everyone, connect with Julie, Dr. Julie Radlauer. And I am excited for another show. And I will send you all my love. I'm gonna go play in the snow with my
Have
girl.
fun. Thank you
Be
for being
great.
you.
Thank you for being you, darling. Bye, everyone.